Now, the DJI Neo was pretty much a game changer in terms of budget-friendly drones. It had the ability to land and launch off the palm of your hand, track you anywhere you go, and decent enough feature sets, especially for the beginners at the price point of under $200. But now we have the Neo 2, which offers many of the key advantages of the original Neo, but has major improvements. We're going to talk about the significant improvements from the original Neo to the Neo 2, so let's get into it. Now, firstly, I just want to list off the key new features on the Neo 2. And the first thing has to be the omnidirectional obstacle avoidance system. It has cameras top to bottom, front, and has the ability to also actively bypass obstacles when it's actively tracking you. Beyond that, the tracking performance is greatly improved. It's faster, smoother, and more reliable. It also has a new cycling and skiing mode with the top speed up to 12 meters per second in terms of tracking speed versus 8 meters per second on the first Neo. You also have a new selfie mode that's optimized for both single and group shots, as well as the ability to custom configure your composition. You also get a new push-pull shooting mode, which emulates the famous shots of Hitchcock and Spielberg, where you pretty much zoom in and move away from the subject, maintaining the same exact framing while changing the perspective. You also have a significant improvement in terms of video quality. Now you can record 4K 60 frames per second as well as 4K 100 FPS in slow motion mode, and the video capture is not upscale 1080p that they call 4K like what we have on the Neo. Beyond that, if you get the controller combo, you also get a transceiver module that allows for communication up to 10-kilometer range. You also get gesture controls, double the internal storage of 49 gigabytes versus 22 gigabytes, and a faster Wi-Fi transfer speed of 80 megabytes a second versus 25 megabytes a second. Now, firstly, let's talk about the rough price point. Now, pricing is kind of up in the air right now since it's kind of a tricky situation with DJI, especially in the US. But as of my information, you're looking at about $260 for the drone itself on the Neo 2 versus the Neo is still going to be around $200 for the drone itself. You can also get a 3 battery combo pack for about $350. And if you want to get the Fly More combo, which includes 3 extra batteries, the battery charger, as well as an RC controller and the transducer module, you're looking at about $430. As far as sizing goes, we'll put the exact measurements on screen, but it's about 9 to 10% larger in terms of volume on the Neo 2 and a little bit heavier. On my scale, with the prop guards and a camera cover install, you're looking at about 157 grams versus about 138 grams on the original Neo. Now, the core design of the Neo 2 hasn't really changed from the Neo, besides being 10% larger. The props are redesigned and they are slightly quieter. I measured about 5 to 7 decibels quieter. You also have a new prop guard over here, which has bumpers to protect the front camera array as well as the new sensors. And the bottom still has the built-in prop guards, so you can take out the prop guards if you want slightly better battery life and things like that, while still being safe to land and launch off the palm of your hand, much like the original Neo. Now, the big design upgrade is now we have a built-in display at the front over here on the left side, and on the bottom right-hand portion of the fuselage, we have 3 buttons, much like the DJI Flip. And you can actually toggle between all the different shooting modes within the screen itself, and even change the parameters of each of those shooting modes. So when you're in follow mode, you can actually change the follow distance as well as how high you want the drone to be. On top of that, you can even specify whether you want the drone to follow you at the front or rear, and even specify left, right shots, even straight on left and right, front, left, right, back, left, right. So you can really customize the way you want the drone to follow yourself, on top of the gesture controls, which we'll get into later on. But certainly a big improvement from a control standpoint, hands-free, compared to the original Neo, which had no display. Now, as we mentioned earlier, there's a radio transceiver unit that you can option up for the Neo 2. That basically allows for a greater communication range, and the module itself is fairly compact and lightweight and shouldn't really affect battery life too much. And there are some 4 screws for you to securely attach it, but it actually plugs into the rear USB-C connection. And with that, you essentially get the ability to have a longer communication range, up to 10 kilometers, which is going to give you a better HD video feed, as well as more stable controls for long distance shots, making it a little bit more capable than the original Neo, which had a built-in receiver, but only a maximum communication range of 7 kilometers. They still have the internal Wi-Fi connection, which you can use even when the module is installed, which is nice. And that Wi-Fi connectivity is pretty stable within a few hundred meters. Past about 300 meters, again, it gets a little sketchy, but that's fine for most tracking purposes. Now, much like the original Neo, there's actually many ways that you can control the Neo 2, including, as we mentioned before, with the radio controller, where you can have longer communication range. You also have the ability to use the DJI motion controller with the DJI goggles if you want kind of an FPV standpoint. On top of that, you can go hands-free by just using the internal display and setting a specific quick shot or making it follow you. Furthermore, you also have the ability to connect to your DJI smartphone app and have pretty much manual or quick shot controls that way. There's even a voice control mode that you go through your smartphone to enable that. And last but not least is the new gesture control feature. When in follow or spotlight mode, simply extend one of your arms with an open palm, move up or down to change the altitude, left or right to move the drone left or right. If you want to bring the drone closer in, bring your arms and hands together, and further away if you want to move the drone further away from you. It's very intuitive and it kind of looks like you have superpowers. The really cool thing about this is you can actually use this gesture control mode when it's an active track. So if you have it tracking you at a specific point, you can actually change that vantage point of the camera actively without having to pull out your smartphone and make that manual adjustment. So very, very cool feature, and it works really reliably, surprisingly enough. I remember back in the 2018 days, the original Tello drone from DJI had gesture controls. It was a little wonky. This is a lot more reliable. And as far as I know, this is pretty much the only drone that DJI has offered that has gesture controls in the modern lineup, which is another unique factor of the Neo 2. Now moving on, let's talk about the camera quality. Now, essentially we have a similar half-inch 12 megapixel imaging sensor found on the Neo 2, but the video performance is substantially better. It can obviously record 4K 60 versus 4K 30 on the original Neo, and you can also do 100 frames per second in 4K mode with the Neo 2 for slow motion. And as far as I can tell, the 4K video quality on the Neo 2 is a huge improvement. It actually is 4K and not line skip 1080p upscaled to 4K, which kind of looks like it on the original Neo. Really decent color dynamics and sharpness. And if you wanted proper 4K video on the Neo, we finally have it. Furthermore, the bitrate of the 4K video, even at 60 frames per second, is actually around 50 megabits per second, similar to the original Neo. So in terms of storage, the video quality has substantially improved, but it's actually taking up the same amount of space, which is great. That means with the 49 gigabytes of internal storage compared to 22 gigabytes on the original Neo, you can record up to 2 hours of 4K footage versus 1 hour on the Neo. Now, as far as the tracking performance goes, obviously we have the new ski mode with alongside the better optical flow sensing capabilities of the ground texture. It's going to do a better job of not only hover stability, but also tracking in kind of a uniform terrain. Great for skiing, as well as for fast motion such as cycling. It can travel up to 12 meters per second versus 8 meters per second in active track mode, and it does a great job of tracking your cycling. That's primarily what I'm using the Neo for, and based on my experience, it will definitely keep up with you, no problem, as long as you're going under 35 kilometers an hour. Furthermore, the reliability of the tracking consistency is a lot better on the Neo 2. On the Neo, you could definitely move suddenly away from the frame and the Neo will lose track of you. And if you come back, it will regain that position, but it is pretty easy to lose track of your subject on the Neo versus on the Neo 2. It's very quick to respond, and I pretty much couldn't lose track of it in an open space. So in a Terminator situation, that's not really great, but if you want reliable, consistent tracking, certainly a big improvement there. And in terms of going through obstacles and things like that, a lot better consistency, and you have the bypass mode. So if it sees an obstacle and it's in its direct path, it will actually bypass that obstacle and maintain tracking position a lot more consistently and reliably compared to the original Neo. I was also super impressed of how resilient the Neo 2 tracking system is. Even if it got caught on a branch and spun around, it eventually kept tracking me pretty much in almost every circumstance. It also does great with occlusion tracking, so if something is blocking your target's direct line of sight, it will eventually wait and predict where the target will move and keep tracking you as well. So very good versatile tracking solution that's much improved from the original. As far as some of the things I wish the Neo 2 could do, it'd been cool to actually have it land on the palm of your hand while in motion. There was a couple of situations when I was cycling and I wanted to just bring out your hand, which is the gesture for it to land automatically, and it wouldn't do it. You'd have to actually come to a complete stop, bring out your palm, and then it would land accordingly. Would be really cool to have it land in motion as well as take off in motion, which is not possible currently. Now, furthermore, in terms of wind resistance, because it's using large prop guards and small props themselves, if there is a big gust of wind, it is going to float around a lot more. It doesn't have the ability to overcome the wind like more professional drones, so it suffers from many of the issues of actually the DJI Flip, which has awesome video quality, but in a windy situation, the footage is not as smooth or as stable as it could be, and certainly that's where the pro lineup of DJI drones comes into play. Move forward in terms of battery life. Now, in terms of battery capacity themselves, on the Neo 2, it comes with 1600 milliamp hour batteries. This is 1400 milliamp hour batteries on the first Neo. And DJI claims you get similar battery performance. We actually did our own real world battery life drain test where we simply put both drones in a static hover in an indoor environment and simply measured from 100% down to where they couldn't fly anymore. And in that situation, the first Neo lasted about 15 minutes and 47 seconds. And on the Neo 2, we got a total flight time about 15 minutes and 37 seconds. So not a big difference between the two, but in general, real world battery, I did find that you're at least going to get a few more seconds, if not a few more minutes on the original Neo compared to the Neo 2. Now, to sum up everything, let's talk about the advantages and limitations of the Neo 2. Now, in terms of the limitations, we still don't have that SD card slot. Would have been really nice to have more recording, and even though 4K at 2 hours is enough for most people, still would have been nice to have a SD card slot, which is still not the case. Furthermore, being a budget-oriented drone, there's no 10-bit video, there's no HDR, and there's no log color capturing capabilities. Understandably so, this is obviously a budget-friendly beginner-style drone, but it would have been cool to have some of those advanced video features on to this package because the Flip has it. Would have been awesome to have the Flip camera within this form factor. Furthermore, I wasn't really too impressed by the battery life. In real world situations, I started getting a low battery warning sign within like 10 to 12 minutes, especially in windy conditions. So you definitely want to get more batteries, at least 3 extra batteries if you want to make this a useful device for long-term shoots. Now, even though the Neo 2 is fairly compact, slightly larger than the original Neo, but not by much, you can still fit it in your hoodie front pocket a little bit awkwardly, but it is small enough to do so. Now, it would have been cool to have some sort of flip out design, like maybe a mini version of the Flip, but that's sadly not the case. And there are other competitors out there that offer even better video performance or similar video performance with a flip out design, but obviously the price point is not as competitive as the Neo 2. And lastly, I think it's kind of a clunky design to have that transceiver module attached externally. Would have been nice to have that integrated within the fuselage, similar to we have with the original Neo. Now, granted, we have the advantage of having a better communication range with that external unit, but it still would have been nice to have it seamlessly integrated. Perhaps DJI did that for design and cost reasons. Now, what are the advantages? Obviously, as we discussed in this entire video, there's many more advantages than there are disadvantages. Certainly when it comes to the tracking performance, it's a lot more reliable, faster, and smoother performance. Obviously, with the new built-in display, the control interface for hands-free operation is a lot easier to use and much more capable on the Neo 2 compared to the original. Furthermore, we have that omnidirectional obstacle avoidance system, which is great for protecting your drone, but also making it much more capable to go around objects and continue following you anywhere you go. Furthermore, you get greater communication range with the transceiver module, even though the design isn't that great, but you obviously have the functionality to go much further distances and get a much clearer video feed alongside more consistent and reliable controls. Furthermore, the 4K video is a lot better quality, not only in terms of having double the frame rate as well as higher frame rates in slow motion at 4K, but the actual video bit rate is the same. And with the double internal storage capacity, you effectively double the amount of capturing capabilities on the Neo 2. Last but not least, I think the gesture implementation is probably one of the best I've ever seen on any drone. Super reliable and consistent. As soon as you bring up your arm, it will start recognizing you. So the machine computer vision AI system in here is pretty next level. And the ability to change your vantage point when you're in active track mode is really awesome. You don't have to pull out your smartphone and make those fine adjustments. So the whole experience is very seamlessly integrated and is a pleasure to use. But really on that, guys, that's really it. If you're in the market for a new budget-friendly drone and are debating between the original Neo and the Neo 2, and if you're looking at that $60 difference, this is pretty much a no-brainer option. It has much better video capturing capabilities, better tracking, and overall features hands down. The only real question is if the Neo becomes like under $100, that might be a little bit hard to swallow. But for the most part, I think this is an awesome package and certainly a very well-designed product that has a customer user base in mind that is new to aerial videography and photography. And for that purpose, it's a sensational starter drone. I really do want to thank DJI for giving us the opportunity to test out the Neo 2. We're actually going to do a whole bunch of other videos, including a buyer's guide and comparing it against other popular drones out there. But if you haven't done so already, please make sure to like and subscribe, have post notifications turned on, and we'll see you real soon in the next one. Take care.